Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 158th episode of Book of Hours, playing as the artist on YouTube. So I changed my mind as far as Disciplines of the Scar are concerned. So this takes Edge and it takes Lantern as its inputs. So we've got Foresight here. Old wounds are not that hard to get back, and we know that we're getting Sun's weakness. So in the end, I decided that I was going to level up Disciplines of the Scar. Excuse me, even though I would be losing my Arab the next day. This is mostly just because I'm actually getting pretty far in terms of what I can do with all of the various books that I have. So it's just nice to be able to start cleaning all of this stuff out. And of course, we're going to be focusing on opening up a couple more rooms in a little while as well as getting a text with a Newman inside of it. So I have kind of a clear idea in terms of where the next steps would be, and if I can clear out the remaining books, that makes it even easier for me to decide what I want to put my time towards. So we're enjoying one last Stargazy pie for tonight. We'll also get Mr. Kill to work on the Fluttering Crypt when he gives us our last memory. I'm hoping he gives us something like a fear, just so that I can keep the old wound and we can work on generating the Wormwood Dream instead, but intuition doesn't help me, sadly, so dead men don't tell no bloody tales. Well, who'd listen? So we definitely want to put him towards the Fluttering Crypt tonight. So the darkness here beats with wings. Bats? The sound is more like birds, but there is a timpani quality that suggests more bones than feathers. One more step, and I sense the possibility of talons. So here we just read this last stream, so I'm going to set that aside. We'll put everything in place for Disciplines of the Scar when it's ready. And wrapped in the King, the dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries. Detailed accounts of the secret bacchanals and ecstatic dances observed in the necropolises and graveyards of southern Europe, in Egypt, and in Anatolia. The author is a self-confessed ghoul, an eater of buried flesh. He claims to have witnessed the dances while at his feasting. The dances draw from the traditions of the mysteries of the cults of Isis and Sybil, but include both symbolic and literal flayings, and the human heart is always central in the rites. The author punctuates his accounts with queasily sensuous descriptions of his own interrupted feasts. At these greater feasts, a black pig is always crowned as king before its slaying. On this occasion, its heart was weighed in the balance against a knot of feathers, and its skin became a cape for the officiant. Its flesh was left for the crows, but I must confess my interest was not in its carcass, but in the perfumed flesh of the milliner laid fresh in the earth. So, your sign's one that we're going to keep overnight. And right now we're waiting for the Arab, so I'm going to hang out here. Krug village. This quiet Cornish fishing village has lain long in the Isle's shadow. It might be as old as Hush House itself. Like Hush House, Krug village has provided sanctuary over the years for its share of misfits and exiles. Better now. Unexpected finds in the folds of earth and sky. So I wasn't expecting serpentinite. I actually don't know if I have anywhere to put it. I think we're running out of space in this area. Well, it works for now. Alright, so let's make sure we use this Arab before we lose the day. Another fruit plucked from knowledge's tree. And then before we finish the night, let's rest on the stolen secret. I don't really have a strong preference on that, but I do know I'm going to need a moon. I do know I'm going to need moon tomorrow, so now that night has fallen, I can rest and perhaps dream on the day's doings. Okay, so before I go too much further in the day, I'm going to do a quick inventory of my my ability to basically just do things. So Focus of Amber is a 16 sky. So Faust gives me 1. My best sky memory would be a Didymos. And then I'll maybe say there's a possibility of a 4 there for a storm. So the idea here would be that maybe I don't want to use the Didymos because it's a little more difficult for me to get. Again, I don't want to... Like, you generate these memories so that you can use them, right? Like, I don't want to be too tight-fisted, but it's worth remembering that I do have 2 sky texts that I want to work with here. So, but yeah, so we have the Didymos as an option. The easiest thing for me is just to put this in. So we've got the soul, we've got the skill, or sorry, we've got the memory. I don't have the skill yet, so let's sort that out. Ah, yes, I forgot. So this is actually a question of a fairly low skill that I have. So Applebright Euphonies is my best option, and I believe one of these does actually level up. Sacralamea, yep, Origins of the Hours does. So I might even want to make that the priority first. So, but anyways, right now the best that I have is Applebright. So that gives me either 14 or 12. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so my secret weapon here is I've got the Mazarine Fife. So that's reusable with 3. So the interesting thing about this one is that I'm just shy of where I would need to be. Mandaic shouldn't give me an extra sky, but let's just verify that. Yeah. So I can do the Focus of Amber, but there's there's the safe path, which is with the Didymos, and then there's a riskier path where I just use a storm, and I think I am inclined towards the storm path at the moment. Again, because giving up an element of the soul for a storm is actually not that big of a deal, and I may get to a point where I can level up Sacralamea in such a way that I can make more of the I can get a boost towards the next text. Okay, so that covers me for Sky. So for Heart, we've got 16 for Nin's Cages. Actually, one thing I'll do here is I'll just take Origins of the Hours and Focus of Amber, because we know we can do those. I also thought I put something on one of these shelves, but apparently not. Okay, so Nin's Cages, the Avignon text. So we've got Core with 2. And I suppose right now I'm sitting on a Storm. That's the highest Heart, if I recall correctly. From that, we would say, well, we would consider a skill. So Quenchings and Quellings is my best at 7. But unlike Sky, we don't have a big tool to help. And Erica Pan shouldn't give us Heart. So we've got, all told, 13, 14 of 16. So it's not impossible, but it's definitely one of the riskier ones for me. So, Nyx Abalix, which is a moon text. I'm actually going to put Voyages of Furnishing of Oriel there. This is more just to make sure that I'm keeping the mysteries together. So we want 16 or 18, depending on the circumstance. Fusine doesn't have a moon side, so ideally we're going up to 18. But again, we'll see where we're at. So our best option here is Trist for an element of the soul. Now, if I'm not mistaken, Wormwood Dream has a high level of moon. I'm just trying to remember if it was the same as the winter or not. I think it is. But what would my alternative be? Because I don't think I have... Actually, the more I think of it... yeah, the more I think of it, I don't think I actually have good moon alternatives. So let's just run with the assumption that we have a six moon from that. Because if I don't, then there's no point in even starting. As far as skills are concerned, I think we're at our top for moon. Yeah. Well, no, we're actually only at 9, but fair enough. So we're up to 7 and then 16. Okay, we definitely have Nyx Abolix. In fact, we could get to the 18. We can risk it if we go for something like the Lunar Glow, but this would be a good case of us using Catwink. That could bring us up to 18, and there's no question on that one. That is something that we have for sure. This would give us wolf stories. I don't think we have wolf stories, actually. No, we do. Okay. And sea stories. Both of these are fairly low levels, so these are actually rather tempting to work on just because they're low cost in terms of our improvements. Okay, so Manual for Departure is a bit easier. And then the Road to Janus is 18. That's going to be one of the more challenging ones for me to work with. Fortunately, I believe VAC does have knock aspect. So yes, realistically, we can treat this as a 16 knock. So to begin with, we've got our Shaft 2. Oh, hell, what was it? I think No, Curious Hunch, I think, was our highest level knock. But now I need to remember how good Curious Hunch was. Because I don't think that was a keeper level. So Gervinite is a metal, so that's not relevant to the conversation, unless it counts as a tool, but I don't think it does. It's been so long since I've done a Curious Hunch. I'm trying to... Again, it's one of these ones where, like, if it doesn't come in the first second, I think taking the time to think about it isn't going to help me that much. I'm pretty sure that Didumos gives me knock, but only something like 3, so I wouldn't want to be... I basically wouldn't want to rely on that. Oh, hang on, we've got the Newman. The Newman would be the key to that. So let's maybe not worry about the Curious Hunch for this time. Let's just say Newman. So that's 5. We would use either Edict's Liminal or Preliminal Meter. Okay, Preliminal Meter for 10. So we're up to 17 already. Well, GG there, so those are going on the shelf. And then the Wound Wounds. Well, we fought kind of hard on that one, but I also think we need to get the Invincible Audacity to be completely fair. So this one's more of a draft, but 18 edge. Again, I don't think Kilisimi offers any edge here. I know it offers winter. Yeah, winter and moon. So, for the sake of argument, Arab Plus gives us 2. Invincible Audacity is actually a question mark, so I'll just say 3 for now. And that's just because that's what I can get through something else. We would add Sickle and Eclipse for 9, sorry. Which would bring us up to 14. So Cucurbit Barrette would bring us up to 15. But the Perenculate would give us 4, and that would bring us up to 18. Okay, so we definitely can read this one. Running out of space. So I suppose that invites the question about the Tower Rises. I'm actually kind of glad that I did this, because it turns out that it's really just Nin's cages which are the question mark here. So if I wanted to try and get 18 rows, VAC does offer me rows, so in effect that's a 17 rows. So we'd start with FET for 2, and then preliminal meters probably the way that I go there. So that's 9. I suppose we'd have to use Horizon Sight in this case, so that's 4. So that brings us 2 to 6. 9 and 6 is 15. Okay, so I need at least 2 more for it to be a sure thing. And the problem here is I'm not so sure we have a rose ink. Well, okay, let me be more precise. There is a rose ink. However, it's a rose ink that when I make it, I don't really need to worry about what skills I'm using. So there's an Incastum Terminale called Porphyrine, which handles most of my problems. But unfortunately, I think we're 1 short in terms of any of our other tools. Oh, hang on. I also need to acknowledge the fact that this is a record, so this actually works a bit differently. So we are able to add the rows, that's good. So we would actually add a second memory here, which I suppose isn't that big of a hardship. So I guess we just use a confounding parable then. Alright. That's actually good to know, so I'll put that on the desk just as a signifier that I'm capable of working with it. So I suppose what I want to think about now, you know, I realize I've spent a lot of time on this, but like there's so much that I can get done. So I might actually go with I think I might go with the moon to start. No, hang on. I can't go with the moon at the start because I need to get the Wormwood Dream. Okay, so we'll start with the Manual for Departure and the Road to Janus then. Because those rely on pretty straightforward memories. Yes, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Okay, having thought about all of that, we're going to put this all into action. So, number 1, we're going to read the Towards a Fundamental Aesthetic, Julian Cosley's work, and it's written in Arecapaean. Now this is assembling everything that I need for reading the Nock text. I still need to talk with Mrs. Kill. Now I can't see a use for my Arab, so I think we're going to talk with Mrs. Kill today. Like there's a small temptation that I talk with Mr. Kill, but I need to generate the Wormwood Dream, and I'm going to use the Wormwood Dream for other things, so we're just going to leave that aside for now. I do need somebody to generate memories for me, though, so we're going to get the assistance from Mrs. Kill. And I think I'm actually also going to start off with the manual labor, so there's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. Now, because the Wormwood Dream is a priority, that's going to involve the That's going to involve the Edicts Martial, but I actually want to specifically work out what my game plan for that is. So I could throw the Tryst in here. That's all well and good, but I do need to generate... I do actually need to generate the corresponding moon. So I suppose... I'm just trying to think what the most straightforward way of doing this is. I mean, I suppose one option I have here would be if I take the Eigengrau. At that point, I really just need a 2 moon memory. And that's pretty straightforward to get, you know, from a confounding parable or something like that. So I think, in the interest of getting this done quickly, let's go to the Vagabond desk, because I don't really have any need for Rose today. Let's read letters from a few... No, let's do the Moon's Egg. I can't remember the last time I've done that. Okay, so the Wormwood Dream is accounted for. We'll maybe move that Tryst down there. Now, the Hive's Lament. Not so sure this is how I can do it, but let's take a peek. Well, if I add the Earth sign... Should have reflected on that. Okay, let's see what the weather brings before I go too much further. Sunny day. Okay. So with that in mind, I think this would be a good opportunity for me to generate an Ascendant Harmony. Conjure bright sky music. Applebright Euphonies with scholar level sky plus an instrument creates an Ascendant Harmony. And we'll see what Mrs. Kill gives me in terms of generating nectar, because I would like to generate a Hive's Lament if I can, but I'm not sure that's something I want to direct my elements of the soul towards. Mrs. Kill stands ready to help. You always cheer me up, she says morosely. And part of this is because I already have an engine of progress going, so when it comes to, like, once I get the knock, I'm ready to go in terms of reading another book. So I don't need to tie myself in knots in terms of things that I want to do for the day. But given that I'm going to be leveling up leveling up a couple of skills, it's nice to keep some elements of the soul in reserve, depending on what happens. Mrs. Kill has seen more of the world than she usually lets on. Conversations with her yield the occasional surprise. The skill is now level 4. Its power aspects have also increased. Disciplines of the Scar. To master boundaries through their determination. The Scar marks wisdom and regrets. One is often born from the other. I've carried a memory like a flambeau safe through the mazes of night. So it turns out the stolen secret might help when it comes to... oh, actually, you know what? I can use the stolen secret to make the Wormwood Dream without having to give up the Eigengrau. Okay, but let's focus on what we just found. The Columbic Crypt. Saint Columbia, with 12 companions, brought the word of the unconquered sun to Scotland, where he founded a monastery on the blessed Isle of Iona. There he died, and there his bones remained until the Northmen came. But in Cornwall they speak of his 13th companion, a hybrid beauty called Rowena, who was perhaps his tutor, perhaps his seducer, or perhaps his daughter. At his death, the monks sought to stone her for her impurities. She bore Columba's bones away so the monks would not have them, substituting, out of tact or mischief, the bones of a horse. She brought the bones to a hidden isle, where she made a double foundation of nuns and monks, and became the first abbess. But she would not admit none of her order who was a virgin, nor innocent of any crime. Since then, the isle has been a refuge for all the world might consider impure. So, in terms of what we get here, there's really only one object to interact with, and that is the Columbic sarcophagus. Sarcophagus, the eater of flesh. No bones remain, but the marble is chilly with power. So this is, we can evolve via Hushery here. This will take a soul a lantern, or sorry, a soul, a scale, and a memory like always. It takes moth and winter, and then the additions that it will take will be an element of the soul, remains, and an omen, or an omen, and then a memory, remains, or pigment. But we do have a couple of interesting rooms that get unlocked from this. So either 15 winter or 15 grail for the rattling tunnels. The dead do not walk here, but their eyes are upon me. I can quell them or I can feed them. And on top of that, we have the sealed vault, a heavy granite door sealed with white wax, a triple lock ornamented with ivory and black nephrite, so scale or knock. So lots of rooms that we can work on. And I never really did work out the honeyed forbidding, but I'll just save that for another time. Okay, let's focus on what we currently have access to. One thing I am eventually going to sort out is with the rattling tunnel, seeing as we know that we need to use a Solomon's preparation with Mr. Kill along with the Wormwood Dream, we might have better options with Mrs. Kill, given that we've got an element of the soul that gives 3 grail. So I'll take a look at my options there. There 'tis and can be no tizzer. Mrs. Kill, as every local gossip knows, came from France to marry Mr. Kill, but there's scant trace of the continent in her accent now. Okay, we'll be done with our books soon. Moon's Egg, the third and last volume of the Meditations of Abbot Thomas of the Abbey of the Black Dove. Abbot Thomas speaks of the coming death he hears in the sound of the waves, but rejoices that his blood will water the egg of the moon, by which he seems to mean the future. The last chapter was dictated, not written, by Abbot Thomas. When Thomas's old sword brother Trygeave returned to raid the abbey, Thomas had broken his monastic oaths and taken up arms to defend the abbey. The two had both been mortally wounded. Thomas's last words are, "The wheel turns, the moon sleeps." Okay, so let's get to work on the Wormwood Dream. Craft a Wormwood Dream. Recall a forgotten crime of moon and winter. As I used to say in my youth, the day is done and so am I, but I've earned my pay. It is spring and the landlady has served me a slice of her stargazy pie, with the pilchard heads poking cheekily through the hot crust. And towards a fundamental aesthetic, or the House of Glass, Julian Cosley considered this his masterwork. Techniques for perception and analysis which permit invidious and apocalyptic conclusions. Probably the most assiduously suppressed book in history. The entire run was destroyed. Even the presses were melted and dispersed. But the manuscript edition has survived. The perfect hegemony of the hours is perhaps eternal, but Cosley proposes and describes confinement inescapable, aesthetic and optical techniques which might contain even an hour, profoundly disrupting the order of the Mansis. He presents this as his own work, but there are hints here and there that he received inspiration or even assistance from the nowhere hour named Snow. Everything ultimately comes down to a choice between eternity and history. There's only one place you're safe from both, and it's not a place anyone would want to be. It's a prison that can only exist in certain histories. So, Knock, Scale, and Winter. Actually, this winter would be good to remember when it comes to trying to get Mr. Kill to go places, but again, I'm trying to preserve as much of the U-Blank as I can, so... Let's focus on our main goal for today, though, which is the Knock readings. So if I do Manual for Departure, that takes me to Door and Wall, which is at level 7. And if I use the Road to Janus, that also takes me to Door and Wall. So I'm definitely going to have a surplus one way or the other. I suppose in the grand scheme of things, it's better for me to do the more difficult of the two works first. Knock, gate flung wide. I am a match for this book, enough knock to match mystery knock. Now, I don't really have a realistic expectation that I'm going to be able to level up door and wall. I can make a try. In fact, I should at the very least write out what I need. So between knock and forge, and actually, you know what? We can do that tomorrow. Like tomorrow is in the next stream. Well, no, we'll do it now. The reason I'm doing it now is it saves people a long introduction. So now's a good time to skip into the next video if you don't like me going through this process. So impulse doesn't help us. Satisfaction doesn't. Revelation doesn't. So secret thresholds should. Bittersweet certainty doesn't. Foresight does. So does regret. No, hang on. Yes, regret does. Hindsight doesn't. Intuition is moon and rose, so that doesn't help. Gossip. Nope. Fear, nope. Beguiling melodies doesn't. Contradiction is moon and edge, so it doesn't. Storm doesn't. Salt. Knock, winter, moon doesn't help. Pattern definitely does. I think this one was solace. Yeah. Earth sign doesn't help. Confounding parables add sky to intuition, so it doesn't help there. And then we have stolen secrets, which helps. So that's 5 to start with. Now on top of that, we can add touch. And on top of that, we can add the Newman. But, oh, and then we have, Curious Hunch. Named a riddle. Didumos. And I believe an old moment. I'm trying to remember if old moment has a forge component or not. So that would be 11 out of the list. So right now I would need 7. So I suppose I could get the touch and the new... Ugh. I actually want to see if I can get the Curious Hunch as it is. So I go Edict's Liminal. I really just need something to throw in the... Okay. That's going to take some thinking. So yeah, I'd say let's not count on leveling up door and wall today. But I'm not gonna have a huff that I wasn't able to level that all the way either. It's just one of those things. Okay. Now I'm well and truly done. Thank you very much for watching, and we will pursue our Nock studies as well as restoring our elements of the soul in the last episode for this week, Friday's episode, tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Take care.